We're back. It's the Tony and Tim show. It's been a long time, and I'm Tony.
And I'm Tim.
Welcome back to this special edition of the show. Of course, Timothy, it's been a long time. A lot has happened around football. We're just sitting outside the deadline day for most of the top European leagues. A lot happened in the past 2 days. Of course, we'll be going through some of that. How have you found the beginning to the season so far in the Premier League team?
Tony, the Premier League is always interesting because the time we have to wait for it is always long, and when the season starts we find it exciting, and it has delivered what we expected. We've seen Manchester City as always coming up, Arsenal being the team to beat right now, but overall, Tony, I think we've all waited for the Premier League and it's delivering.
And now it's, of course, the end of the transfer season as we know it now. A lot happened on the deadline day, but a lot also happened in preparation for the season with Manchester City. Of course, the holders right now are getting Erling Haaland into their squad, who has hit the ground running. Already 9 goals in the Premier League, which is something I think he has already broken the record for the August month for the number of goals scored. But the rest of the teams that have been chasing, how much do you think they are prepared to challenge Manchester City this season?
Tony, I think the table does not lie. Even if you look at the opponents teams have played against, you see Arsenal has 15 points, 5 out of 5. I think Arsenal has built a team that is willing to challenge. If Arsenal ends top 4, I think that is still decent. But with being on top after 5 games, I think they're starting to consolidate. But the next games and the next month will show us how far Arsenal have come. I think Arsenal is a decent side, they're ready. Man United lost the first 2 games, they're starting to get ready. So overall, Tony, I think the top 6, they're already Liverpool and Chelsea so far looking the shaky sides, in my opinion.
Very interesting. Of course, we've seen the very big signings, of course, with all the teams making big signings. Man City, like we just said, brought in Erling Haaland. Manchester United have almost broken the bank to bring in Casemiro and Anthony on the deadline day. I think those are 2 very good signings that can up Manchester United's perhaps position and the number of points at the end of the season.
Yeah, Tony, I think Anthony, it was needed. I remember 2 years ago we discussed United needing a number 7. They got Sancho. He's dipped. His numbers have not equaled what he delivered in Dortmund. Anthony, Tony, I think he's a dribbler. You like him in dribbling. I think he's going to come in and try to whip in those passes. Unfortunately, Man United seems not have, again, the big number 9 that would maybe profit from such crosses. But the 2, we've tried a lot in Man United that they need a number 6. They usually play Fred and McTominay. Maybe Casemiro is going to play alone as a holding 6 and then release Bruno and maybe Eriksen. That looks to be consolidated. Number 7, will Anthony deliver? In my opinion, maybe, but he's still a young man with 22 years.
You hinted on Liverpool not being very ready. Of course, their only big signing has been Darwin Núñez, who we know, of course, already got a red card there. We'll be hoping to see more of him in the upcoming games. Will that affect how they chase this trophy?
Tony, I think when you look at Liverpool, yes, you talk of the signing Darwin Núñez, but it's the loss of money. I think we are going over time to understand that money actually used to bring in to gel the front 3, and we've noticed
and his energy,
because Salah, Tony, looks to be off the pace right now. Núñez got a red card. We cannot judge him in 1 or 2 games. So let's see in the next couple of games what he brings to the table. He now has the pressure. He was being compared to the Man City guy, Erling Haaland. Now the disparity is already clear, Tony, that one is really better. But Núñez has to come to the table and say, I was off for 3 games.
Stake his claim.
Yeah.
Very interesting, and of course we've seen Tottenham also strengthening in some key positions. Not much has changed around their team, of course, especially up front. They acquired Richarlison. We'll have to see how he gels into the team. Most of the games he's been coming from the bench there, but also Chelsea made the deadline signing. The deadline signing of course, Aubameyang and Fofana. Very interesting signings.
Yeah, very interesting, Tony. Again, for Aubameyang, it's the shirt number that has put me off. That number 9 seems to be a cast shirt number, but Aubameyang is a proven player, is a proven goal scorer. And looking at the Chelsea team, he knows he's going to be the starter. He's going to get minutes. I think with the services of Sterling, he's going to be able to deliver. And they needed again a defender in Fofana because Chelsea plays a back 3. They had got Koulibaly there, but the team still looked shaky in defense. Fofana is talented, but is he going to fit in? We know he's injury prone all the time. But again, all the teams, they say you can't win the league in the first 5 games, but it can define your position at the end of the season.
Very, very interesting. Of course, the big 6 sides are trying as much as they can in the window to try and get their teams moving on from how they finished last season. We know Man United and Arsenal are in the Europa League.
Yeah.
They'll be pushing this season as hard as they can to get themselves back in the Champions League places. But the other teams will not be letting them. They are very, very big, interesting, of course, transfers there in the Premier League. But moving on now, we move after the transfers are done, after everyone's head is settled. We've been seeing teams with players that might have thought maybe they would be moving on. Cristiano Ronaldo was looking for Champions League. Very interesting to see him staying at Carrington there. So it will be now interesting to move into the phase where all these players are settled. They know that there's no more transfer talk until January. Now they can pull up their sleeves and start doing the hard work. And that kicks off this weekend, team.
Yeah, it kicks off this weekend with interesting games. The first one, of course, being the Merseyside derby.
Big one.
Big game there, Tony, because I think Everton needs points. Liverpool not yet solidified. They got a late winner there against Newcastle, yeah. But it's now where teams have to settle down, Tony, and you have to play with caution. You've said that until the January window, but I'm looking at the World Cup, because you have to play for your position to be able to go to Qatar and perform for your club. So that is going to play a lot, both in the players and the managers. The players want to make it to the World Cup, and the managers are trying to control these players and make sure maybe they're less fatigued as they go to the World Cup, because they will have to come back to their clubs a week after the World Cup. So this season is going to be so interesting because of the World Cup being in the middle of the season.
And of course, we know that a lot of the Champions League fixtures and the Europa League and Europa Conference League have been crammed into that little time that we have before that World Cup that will be coming in Qatar, of course, in December. Very, very interesting there. We'll be talking about that in our subsequent episodes. But to tomorrow's games, team. So Liverpool are the early fixture.
Yeah.
They'll be playing Everton away from home.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a derby, both teams being in Liverpool. How do you rate this Everton side under Lampard?
Tony, Everton has struggled. I thought they sneaked through. They had a long time fighting the relegation battle last season. They've started poorly, in my opinion. They've not delivered. They have acquired the number 9 in Mopé, because we know Calvert-Lewin is injured, so they needed a number 9. Gordon, we thought he was going to join Chelsea. That didn't happen.
That's a big coup for them
to keep him. Yeah, I think so. So in a derby, every player wants to perform. So it's going to be a tight affair. I think Everton's boost this time is Liverpool's not firing, so they get the chance to try and engage Liverpool in the same level.
Might that last gasp winner that, of course, Fabio Carvalho scored against Newcastle, might that spur Liverpool on and show them that perhaps now they need to pull up their sleeves, now they need to do the work much earlier in the game?
Yeah, Tony, good teams always find a way to win, and Liverpool proved to us that they're a decent side, and I think that will push them. And they know they stole 2 points from Newcastle.
It was stealing.
It was stealing, in my opinion, because a lot happened, the referee's timing. But in tomorrow's game, I think Everton has a chance not to win, but to nick a point from Liverpool.
Will be very, very interesting there, of course, to see. Everton must look for points somewhere. Lampard has not started so well this season, but Jurgen Klopp will be looking at the gap already building up between himself and Pep Guardiola's Man City, and we'll be looking at this game where they can perhaps pick some points. I think, in my opinion, Liverpool will be able to win this one. I've gone for a 2-1 win for Liverpool in this particular fixture. You think it's going to be a draw?
I think I go for 1-1.
Interesting there, of course. Lunchtime kickoffs are usually difficult for all teams involved there, and of course we have another derby coming up right after that. Chelsea will be taking on West Ham in London. Chelsea have tried as much as possible to plug the gaps up front and at the back. Of course, with the acquisitions of Raheem Sterling and Aubameyang, and then at the back bringing in Fofana, and Koulibaly. In the middle of the park, how convinced are you of this Chelsea side?
Chelsea looks unbalanced in the middle. They look weak. They look lightweight. I don't know, because Gallagher, Tony, was one of the best players in Crystal Palace on loan last season. I thought him coming back, he would consolidate. We have Jorginho there. So they are still trying to find a matchup. Kovacic, is he the one going to play? Because Kante is out. So it looks lightweight, and I think that is why they rushed in for a defender. I thought they need another midfielder, but they already jam-packed there. They have a lot of deadwood, this Chelsea team. But again, Tony, it's the early times of the season, so maybe the Chelsea now with the number 9, Sterling, has been leading the attack, maybe can now come and link the midfield and then the final man Aubameyang, and maybe Chelsea might deliver. West Ham, on the other hand, has not started so well. They got a win, I think, before the previous game, but still also they are not firing. Remember last season, West Ham, the first games had about 4 wins in 6 games. This time it's not the case.
Of course, they'll need to get their best players back on track. Jarrod Bowen hasn't started the season particularly well. They have the 51 million acquisition of Lucas Paqueta. He's one of the brightest prospects. Of course, I'm very excited to watch this guy play. I know I've seen him before in AC Milan and in Lyon. He's one of those players that I think will be very, very interesting to watch in this coming season. Chelsea, though, I think still have what it takes to win in this particular game. David Moyes' side still struggling to gel with a couple of new signings that they've made in that team. Gianluca Scamacca, one of their strikers that they've brought in, another exciting player to watch. He'll be bringing another dimension, but he might be missing out in this one. I think Chelsea has what it takes to win 2-1 as well.
No, I think Chelsea has enough, Tony, and I want to go for the same score. I think they'll win this 2-1. They'll concede because of Mendy, but they'll
Mendy has started in poor fashion this season. Very, very interesting there. Another derby, Tottenham will be taking on Fulham. Of course, another interesting side. They've just been brought back into the league, but they have Alexander Mitrovic, who broke all sorts of records in the championship last season, and he has hit the ground running this season.
Yeah, and I think this time, Tony, Fulham gets relegated. Mitrovic will not get relegated. He's been a revelation in this season, scoring here and there, but they take on a Tottenham side that I think are also looking at bigger things this season, and they brought in a few players there. Richarlison, you did mention that, but they've kept playing the starting 11 that almost finished last season, and I think that team is decent enough. Perisic has added in the dimension. I think they'll be a handful for Fulham. I'm then going for 5-0.
That's a big prediction, Timothy. I think it will be interesting to watch there. Of course, Tottenham taking on Fulham. Big game. I think Tottenham has the firepower. They haven't started as well as we might have thought in the season. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son in particular, looking at a shadow of his former self. He'll be hoping to pick up in September. August didn't go so well for him, so I'll be expecting to see some goals in that one. I think we'll have a 3-2 win, but for Tottenham Hotspur in this particular fixture. So very interesting there, and of course we wrap up the evening there with Aston Villa at Villa Park hosting Manchester City, the high-scoring Man City. Their top scorer already with 9 goals. I can't believe that this guy Erling Haaland, he's been very, very interesting to watch, very exciting, and of course with the players around him, this looks like an easy walk in the park for Man City.
Yeah, Tony, it would sound like an easy walk in the park, but you remember the last game of last season. It was actually Aston Villa that nearly broke the hearts of Man City. They were able to come from 2 goals down. I think Gerrard needs to make some points, Tony, and they'll be having a game out there for Man City. But I think Man City, Tony, we've seen they've gone down twice now, 2 goals, and they've been able to come and win comfortably. I think they should be able to get a clear win here. Not so simple the way we're seeing Man City, but Man City will win.
Will be very interesting. Of course, Aston Villa have their problems to contend with on their side. They've struggled with the captain change, and Mings looks like he hasn't yet kicked on this season.
And Gerrard, I think, doesn't know his starting 11. He's changing here and there. Today he's standing with Mings, and then tomorrow he brings in Bailey. He doesn't have a first 11 yet. It's
something that any coach that's looking for points usually tries different formations. Of course, you know he has the creativity of Coutinho, but you see in some games he's been standing with Buendia. So it will be very interesting to see who he finally puts his trust in. And of course, you know the players, once you trust them, perhaps they'll give you something solid there. But it will be interesting. I think Man City will beat Aston Villa in this one. I've gone for a 4-0 in this particular game. But on Sunday is when we have the big one. Arsenal will be taking
the unbeaten Arsenal.
The high-flying Arsenal will be taking on Manchester United, of course, with themselves coming back from their early scare of 2 losses. They've been flying after that, 3 wins in a row, starting to keep clean sheets. It will be very interesting. Of course, we know the issues that Arsenal have, but how prepared are both these managers for this season team in terms of these big games?
I think there's a lot of stake, and I think we're going to start gauging Arteta in a game like against.
He hasn't played a big game so far.
Yes, and this will, everyone will be saying, what does Arsenal do? The only worry for me, Tony, or my disappointment, is Arsenal has had a little injuries. I really wanted to see the starting 11 play a big side. I feel they're able to get a point or win even, because the side looks decent in my opinion. And you look at Man United, there's a lot of hope. They've made a lot of acquisitions, not yet starting them. I think they're trying to get them in slowly. But it's a game everyone will be watching. It's one of those perennial games that there's a lot of rivalry, and to me, I think we will have a good game on Sunday.
We expect it to be a very good game. Of course, you're talking about the injuries to Arsenal's squad, already losing out Thomas Partey, Zinchenko, the new signing from Man City.
Odegaard limped out.
Odegaard has been limped out in the last game. So it will be very interesting. El Neni, who is the cover for Partey, is also out.
Yeah.
So it might be Lokonga starting in that particular game.
But you need to talk about Jesus, Tony. He's been terrific.
Terrific. I think he's already looked like one of the best signings so far. He looks like he raises the energy of everyone around him.
Yeah.
Arsenal looks much balanced, like you said. It looks much prepared, more prepared than it started the season last season.
Yeah.
But Man United has turned things around, and so that will be where we have to put our eyes, because with the acquisition of Casemiro in midfield, which has been a problem point for Man United, I think things are going to start changing. And of course, like you said, Anthony coming in at the right wing. They haven't had a proper number 7 in a while, so this makes it a mouth-watering clash. You can't afford to miss that on Sunday, coming to you in the evening. Manchester United taking on Arsenal at Old Trafford, mind you, where Arsenal only has 2 wins in the last 6 attempts. So it will be very, very interesting, this one. But I think this will sound very interesting. I've gone for 2-1 Arsenal win.
Tony, I have a split in my mind and the heart, but I want to think it might end 2-2.
Big prediction there. Tell us what you think from your side. Of course, thank you for watching. It's been a very, very long time. We'll be bringing to you some of these predictions from now on, of course. And this episode is brought to you by Moving Ads. We thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.